Hey guys, what's going on? Today we'll be taking a look at the Dukharo 66. We'll be taking a look at this board and putting it together along with these all new Kailh Santa switches. So let's get started. If you guys want to check out these switches along with any other switch that Chosfox sells, I'll have a link in the description down below. So let's get started with the build. Alright, so here's the Dukharo 66. I picked this up off AliExpress a few weeks ago and it just came in a few days ago. This keyboard is a hot swap gasket mount with a 65% layout, so you keep the arrow keys as well as having two side keys that you can program for whatever you want. You also get a knob here on the side for media playback. It has USB-C input right here on the top left, as well as Bluetooth and Wi-Fi for connectivity. It is a gasket mount design, however I found that it doesn't have much flex, if any at all. I went ahead and already added foam to the bottom of the case underneath the PCB, and that took away any remaining flex that this board had. So if you guys are looking for a more bouncy experience, I would suggest looking at other gasket mount keyboards or staying away from adding foam to the bottom. I did add foam because I do like the sound that it produces, but that is not a requirement. Further, I will be adding the Durock plate mounted stabilizers to this keyboard along with the Santa switches. I'm going to start this video off talking about the new Kailh Santa switches. These switches were sent to me by Chosfox for my review. I'll be taking them apart and putting them in my Dukharo 66. The key difference with these switches is that the spring is actually a cone shape versus the normal cylindrical shape of every other switch that I've seen. I went ahead and took apart one of these switches and you can see the cone shape spring right here. I'm told that the cone shaped spring allows it to have a lighter actuation force and then a heavier bottom out force in this linear switch. Now there's two types of these switches. There's the H and T versions. I have the T with a 55 gram operating force and a 70 gram bottom out force. There's a lighter H series Santa switch with a 38 gram actuation force and a 55 gram actuation force. The stems of these switches are palm, as well as the base, and then the top cover is made out of polycarbonate. I'm going to begin by just taking off these stabilizers that come with it. They just pop out like that. I already added some band-aids to this one. However, I didn't really find it necessary. I feel like the stock stabilizers are already pretty secure, and the Durock stabilizers will have a little bit extra thickness, so you won't have to experience any of the rattling. Alright, so I already added the case foam to the bottom of this keyboard earlier before this video started, so I went ahead and took out the stabilizers right here. They do come pre-lubed from the factory, so it's not really a requirement to add your own stabilizers. I just prefer to using Durock plate mounted. I feel like they fit into the housings, the cutout a little bit better. They reduce some rattle and they come pre-clipped, so all you really have to do to them is just lube them up, pop them in, and you're good to go. So I took these out. I'm just going to go ahead and put these together, pop them in, and then we'll take a look at the switches. Alright, so we have all the stabilizers installed. Next are the switches. So once again, these are the Santa switches from Chosfox. I'll have a link down in the description. They do come lightly factory lubed, but I will be taking them apart, lubing all of them with Krytox 205, and then popping them in. So before I get started with that, I'm just going to go ahead and give you a quick sound test of the unlubed versus lube switches, and then I'll go ahead and cut to when I have all of them finished. Alright, so over on the right hand side with the S key we have the lube switch, and on the left with the A key we have the unlubed switch. These are the AKKO Dracula Keycaps. I'll be using these keycaps on the board after I'm done lubing the switches. Hey guys, I forgot to mention the number 1 key right here has an LED that's on top of the PCB to accommodate for the USB-C port on the back. So when picking out switches, make sure your switch has a cutout for LEDs on the back like these, otherwise it won't fit. And if you do, you can just pop it in like normal. It will take some extra force to kind of get it to snap into place, but it'll fit as long as it does have the cutout for the LED.
The next day.
Now that all the switches are installed, it's time to add in the keycaps. These are the AKKO Dracula Keycaps. I got these off Amazon. They're an ASA profile, meaning they're a little bit shorter than SA, but they do have the sculpted look to them. The spacebar, I like to add some of this Loctite Fun Tack or Blue Tack. I feel like it removes some of the hollowness and gives it a more deeper sound. So I already have a few pieces cut out right here. I'm just going to add it to the bottom of the spacebar. And here's the completed build. Overall, I think it came out really nice. The keycaps look awesome. The switches feel amazing, which I was surprised about given how minimal of a difference they are in the build. The cone spring really gives it more of a springy, poppy feel, similar to a 2-stage spring, which I do enjoy. So if you guys are in the market for a new type of switch, be sure to check out the link in the bottom of this video. Now, before I want to get into the sound test, there's a few more things I want to talk about. First is the software. So I had a few questions in my previous video when it comes to software for these keyboards. Since it doesn't have QMK support, you are tied down to the software that comes with the board. Now, there's no viruses. I've had a few questions about that. I did scan it on my computer before downloading it, and it works fine. It's pretty simple. You have a few macro options to switch out some of the keys. So I did switch these side keys from page up and page down to print screen and delete. So you can switch any of the keys you want on this board. It also has a few extra lighting modes if you don't want to mess with the built-in lighting. So with that out of the way, let's get into the sound test. From that sound test, you guys can tell this is more of a clacky sounding keyboard. You may like it, you may not. I like it. It reminds me of more of a vintage kind of 70s IBM. Sounds great, especially with these keycaps. I think it gives it a nice retro feel to them. The switches also are very, very smooth. They're not too heavy. I'm not a big fan of super heavy keys. These are a nice medium, about 55 grams of actuation force, but they do tend to get a little bit heavier as you bottom them out. Other than that, I am very pleased with how this keyboard came out. Thank you again to Chosfox for sending me over these switches. I'll have a link down in the description for you guys to check them out. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of these videos in the future.